Today is the day the Lord has made. And I think it's important to remember you want to be the light in the world. You want to be as positive as possible. You want to be that positive person. You have to find a way to reach out and think about how Jesus lived, and you want to say, what would Jesus do? In every situation, what would Jesus do? Jesus of Nazareth, I'm sorry, I have a lisp. Jesus of Nazareth was born and raised during the peak of the Axle Age, when all the religions of the world were spreading like wildfire, and Jesus created his religion at that time. He wanted to change the world. He died for our sins. He had a lot of proverbs that he said on a regular basis, almost like a Confucius type, or I forget the other guy, the other Chinese philosopher I'm thinking of. But anyways, there was Jesus changed the world in a positive way, and just like all the other creators of the other world religions changed the world in a positive way. It's not to say there was never any more wars. It's not to say there was going to be peace for the rest of history or anything like that. I used to have a world history professor in high school. He would say all the wars in the world are caused because of religion. Now, I don't really believe that. I don't believe all the wars in the world are caused because of religion. I think people are a lot more complicated than that. People have a lot more reasons for fighting than that. It's just human nature to do that. Before we converted to major religions, we were basically barbarians, and that was during the Axle Age. Sorry, if is it Axios Age or Axle Age? I don't know. So basically, in the Axle Age, we all. Oh, hey Jonathan, how are you? So in the Axle Age, we converted from barbarians to being in a civilization. This all turned into a civilization. Overnight, it became a fairy tale land where anything was possible. Whereas if you go back to, oh Jonathan, you're good. I'm glad about that. Was if you go back to like a few thousand years ago, we were all just barbarians. We were all just monkeys running around, gathering fruit trees and stuff. That was before we invented agriculture, before we could have Pop-Tarts. Jonathan said, and you, oh, thank you. Oh, and you, I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm doing good. So before we had agriculture, and agriculture, we can have all different kinds of foods grown through agriculture. It could be corn, could be potatoes, could be anything. We exchanged seeds all over the world with different types of agricultural food products. So many great things have come from agriculture, but agriculture only got really popular during the Axle Age, during when the religions were spreading. Bella 2 says, can I get a shout out? Yeah, Bella 2, shout out. There's a shout out. So the religions of the world were spreading during the Axle Age, and agriculture was spreading during that time, and there was more variety of foods they could have. Charlotte Farr says hi Charlotte, how you doing today? So you have to ask yourself, what would Jesus do? I used to have a number of bracelets I bought online, or I bought somewhere that said, what would Jesus do? And I think about that a lot. What would Jesus do? And I think more than anything else, you want to study how Jesus lived his life, how Jesus, the proverbs he said, the treat other people how you want to be treated. How, you talk about church is not a a marketplace. Like he ripped apart a church one time, saying this is not a church is not supposed to be a marketplace. But then again, I think a lot of churches are marketplaces today. But um, I don't think there's anything wrong with marketplaces. I don't think there's anything wrong with churches. I just think it's interesting in Jesus's perspective. I don't know exactly what Jesus meant by that. Um, Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist. Jesus was a carpenter. His father, what was his father's name? Joseph. Joseph was a carpenter. His father was a carpenter. Rose says hi. Hi, Rose. How you doing today? Yeah, Jesus' father, Joseph, was a carpenter, and then Jesus became a carpenter. That's just what historians assume. Hi, Rose. Hello. Oh, go, you're good. That's good. I'm glad about that. Historians assume Jesus was a carpenter, and we can pick little details from the Bible and we could expand upon it, and we can understand bigger parts about what the stories in the Bible really meant, and what are some more meanings in it other than just what it says in the Bible. That's why a lot of Bibles have like explanation sections that are really big, and they explain so many other things of what could be happening in the Bible while they're talking about it. Paul the Apostle spent his entire life spreading the word of Jesus. He spent all his entire life, about 80 years, going around the world spreading the word of Jesus. FJB says holy something. Paul the Apostle spent his entire life spreading the word of Jesus, and that's what he spent his life doing. And historians know that Jesus really existed. I've heard some people say, Rain says hi Rain, how you doing today? I've heard some like my uncle says, like, oh, but we don't but Jesus didn't really exist. No, we do know Jesus really existed. We don't know what kind of person he was, but we do know he really existed. He probably wasn't a god, but he was probably he was probably just a revolutionary person. Murray says hello. Hello, Murray, how you doing today? Jesus didn't he didn't necessarily have to have been a god to have been a real person. Murder Drones is the best. Lol says, I'm going to see your search history. He. Okay, that's good. And then so I'm not saying Jesus was an actual god. I'm just saying that I don't know why this ray of light is like coming in like this. It must be from outside, I guess. Or my cell phone is messed up or something. Why is this looking like that? Maybe that's better. Rose says, how are you? I'm doing good, Rose. How are you? So, we do know historically there was a Jesus Christ. And Rose says, cool. Okay. And then Jesus spent his entire, Paul the Apostle spent his entire life trying to spread the word of Jesus. He traveled to Greece. He traveled to Italy. He traveled to modern day Croatia. Pumbaa the pig says hello. Hello, Pumbaa. How you doing today? So John the Apostle, or not John the Apostle, Saint Paul the Apostle spent his entire life sending letters around the world. I think John did the same thing. John the Apostle did the same thing. But Adrian M says hi. Hi, Adrian. How you doing today? Rose says, how do you know? How do I know what? Nehemiah's World says, how do you remember? How do I remember what, Nehemiah? So, I wasn't alive back then, back when Jesus was spreading the word. Back when... Do I remember you, Nehemiah? Yeah, I remember you, Nehemiah. Oh, how do you know about Jesus? Well, the Bible was written 2,000 years ago. We have copies of the Bible that were the original copies that are like 2,000 years old that were discovered in 1950. Um, Jesus's life. Well, we don't know the details of Jesus's life. We just know there was a guy named Jesus. Um, we found in the cave copies of the Bible. I forgot what those were called, but they were original copies. They weren't written 1,000 years ago. They weren't written 1,500 years ago. They were written 2,000 years ago, and you can tell by carbon dating how old something is. You can always tell by carbon dating how old something is, and those copies of the Bible were 2,000 years old. Now we have copies of the Bible that are 1,000 years old. We have them for 500 years old. King James is 500 years old. We have copies of the Bible that are 1,500 years old during the Nicene Creed, when they were written during the Nicene Creed era. But but we have copies of the Bible that were the same age as like they're written right after Jesus was roamed the earth. So and yeah, he was a real guy, and he Rose says question mark and then says I love Jesus. Yeah, I love Jesus too. He was a very important figure in the world, and it's important to have faith in people that are bigger than ourselves because sometimes we lose faith in who we are sometimes, but as long as you have faith in God and Jesus, then you'll feel better about yourself and feel good about being alive. I'm gonna go. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Bye bye.